Guess we'll go ahead and get started. My name is James Mallory. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer over here at CADTALK, and we're going to dig right in and show you guys a little bit about what we do and who we are. So first and foremost, what do we do? What we do is we have basically it's a middleware application called CADTALK. It's been on the market for many years, and we connect to a lot of different CAD and PLM applications. In fact, pretty much anything major on the market, and we'll talk more about that later. But the bill of material within your CAD or PLM application is very, very different than your bill of material and your routing within Infor CSI. And before products like CADTALK, and there aren't many on the market that do what we do. You guys are probably doing it today, right? You have somebody in IT or engineering that is rekeying all the changes to your bill of material, or if you're designing a new part, you have to create those from scratch, and that can be very, very tedious. The more items you have, the more revisions you have. You guys know it's a pain in the butt, to be quite honest with you. So we take that file, we can pick it up, we bring it into our application, and we have an artificial intelligence layer and some rules that look at that file for the bill of material and transform it into a bill of material within Infor CSI. Now, not only can we do the bill of material, we can also, with the AI technology that we're leveraging, we can add operations. So we can have the labor operations within manufacturing that are added automatically. And we can do some really cool things like calculating manufacturing cycle times, run times. We can account for scrap, setup times, machine run times, etc. We can also automatically select the correct warehouse. Many of you are larger and you have multiple warehouse locations, as well as the default vendors for purchased items. Okay. And, at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to get everything accurate, not only for costing, but also for material planning and for production scheduling. And this literally can take you a matter of minutes compared to hours for every single CAD model and every single revision, eliminating a lot of redundant data entry error and making it a lot more efficient. So just a quick background on the product. It was developed by manufacturing engineers that had a lot of experience with ERP, including Infor CSI. So they had the same problem that you guys had or have today, and they said there's got to be a better way, and they built CADTALK. And thankfully to them, they did. It's been available for about a decade now, and it's used by hundreds of users globally. We are on 5 continents today. So rest assured, it is a very tried and true product. It's also trusted and reviewed. This is a really good product. If you guys are interested, pop on out to Capterra and take a look at some of the reviews of the product from some of our users. And just give you one of the quotes from one of our very happy customers, Cleveland Price. They're out of the Pittsburgh region. CADTALK has been an irreplaceable tool in helping us handle a significant increase in the amount of bill of material data we've been required to process over the last several years. Supported applications. So popular ERP business applications, most of you on the call today are using Infor CSI. If you happen to have other ERPs, maybe a sister company or a subsidiary, contact us. We do integrate to a lot of different ERPs, and we may be able to work with you on that side as well. In addition, this is not even close to a comprehensive list of the CAD and PLM applications that we integrate with. So if you don't see your application on the screen here, don't worry. We have 30+ integrations. There's a good chance that we have it. And if not, let us know. There are a few kind of very niche CAD and PLM applications out there. We'll build the integration. It only takes us a short period of time, a couple weeks to actually build that integration. We'll make sure that we do that. And we do keep these all up to date. So as Infor releases new versions of CSI, and as every single one of these CAD or PLM vendors update their products, we make sure that our product, CADTALK, is kept up to sync with those updates. In addition, we do have ongoing maintenance and support to ensure that compatibility. And if you guys have questions or you encounter a problem for whatever reason, we have full support. So why CADTALK? This is the big reason, right? It's this engineering to manufacturing handoff, which typically takes a long time. And we're talking hours to days. For some companies, it's man-months worth of work in a given year to translate the bill of material, to set up the routings, to create the inventory records, etc. We can reduce that by 80%, if not more, okay? And we have some customers who are getting some pretty significant benefits out of the product. So why is the bill of material so important? It's because everything in manufacturing is driven from the bill of material. If you have an incorrect bill of material, you're going to have incorrect materials affecting scheduling. You don't know when they're going to get there. You don't know what you need. You're going to start production. You're going to have the wrong parts. It's going to affect purchasing, right? You're buying the wrong products or maybe the wrong revisions of those products. It's going to affect your production planning, your quality, right? Could potentially suffer if you're using parts that aren't quite to the right rev level, which is going to have trickle down into customer satisfaction. It's going to affect your costing, and it's also going to affect really every other area of manufacturing. So that's why the bill of material is so critical. And I think we all know that. So a couple things that CADTALK's really good with is helping you prepare engineering data. We have a piece that actually can be accessed within your CAD application called Design for Manufacturing. And what it does is it gives your engineers information from Infor CSI. So you can look at certain data without having to log into CSI or SyteLine and determine what you need to do, right? Is this part active? Is it inactive? Is this the current rev? What's the stocking warehouse? All those details, the things in Infor, you'll be able to see when you're doing your design. Going to make you a lot more efficient in the engineering process. Okay. This is a little bit just what DFM looks like. So you can actually, within here in SolidWorks, the SolidWorks UI, for those of you that use SolidWorks, you can actually access information from Infor. And just another screenshot here showing some of that information. So that's the overview of kind of who we are and what we do. Picture's worth 1,000 words and a video is worth a lot more. So let's go ahead and show you a very brief overview. This will be about 13 to 15 minutes of what the product looks like.
Today we're going to do a demonstration of CADTALK with Cloud Suite Industrial. CADTALK is a bidirectional integration between your CAD, PDM, PLM systems and CSI. So the idea is that we take data from the CAD, PDM, and PLM systems and transform it from the engineering bill of material into manufacturing bill of material that CSI requires in order to do the manufacturing and production. We do have a bidirectional interface, so we can actually go back and forth between the CAD and the ERP. Today, I'm actually going to demonstrate one CAD system. We actually work with all major CAD systems on the market. Today, I'm actually just going to demonstrate Solidworks. The actual use of the software is very much the same, regardless of what CAD system you're using. So we'll actually start off with a very simple part here. This is gear shaft assembly, just a two-part assembly. I like to start off with that because it really makes it simple to understand and easy to follow what's happening. This is all new for you. And then we'd like to move on to a much more complex example, which is a Sea-Doo scooter that you see here. So this is a larger, probably 40-part assembly with multiple levels. And another thing to note is that first assembly, the gear shaft assembly, is actually a sub-assembly of this assembly. So we actually get the idea of what it's like when I bring something in that's already existing in CSI, Cloud Suite Industrial, as opposed to being all brand new parts, okay? What it's going to do is it's actually going to create any parts that need to be created. that are new to the CSI, and then it's also going to update any parts that are existing with any changes that we make depending on the rules that we set up. So when I mention rules, is a CADTALK actually has this kind of an expression AI engine, artificial intelligence engine, that it uses to figure out like how to convert between CAD and ERP. Now that engine can be configured using specific rules to the customer using like an expression engine that's very much like working with Excel functions. So you set up there's if-then logic, or there's inferences and things like that can be set up. And we actually include that as part of the cost of the installation. So when you buy the product, the installation's included, and we set all that up for you. But it's not a custom version of CADTALK. It's actually just configured for your needs. All right, let's get started with the demo. Here's the CADTALK interface, and as you can see here, at the top toolbar, I've got all these different CAD systems. I've got Inventor and SolidWorks, and we also work with spreadsheets. So we support every major CAD system on the market: CAD, PDM, and PLM. So this is just a kind of an example of a few. Now, this interface is actually what we call the standalone interface, which is actually used by someone downstream from the engineer. So we found that there's a couple different use cases for CADTALK, one being the engineer themselves using the product. And in that case, we actually have the same interface that works inside of the CAD software, so the engineer can easily do this work himself. Okay, so the other use case is that the engineer doesn't really know anything about the ERP side and what's required and things like that. So instead of having him use it or her, we're actually going to have someone downstream from the engineer use the product and actually read the CAD files and CAD data directly. Our integration doesn't require any CAD software to be loaded, so we actually can read CAD files directly. You'll see here, I'll actually open up SolidWorks files directly from the drive and then read them and bring them into CSI. Another thing to note is that we actually work with all the major PDM software. So today I'll actually open things up for my file system, but if you have SolidWorks PDM or Vault or any of the other PDM or PLM softwares, we can pull data from those directly as well. So this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to show the simplest case. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and say load SolidWorks file. I'm going to go ahead and grab that propeller gear shaft assembly. I'm going to hit open. And it's going to ask me which configuration that I want to open. This is a SolidWorks feature. I'm going to just pick one configuration here, say OK. And so what's happening is you'll see the parts kind of flash by. What's actually already done is it's read through the entire SolidWorks model. And then it also is speaking to CSI in the background and asking it if anything exists and looking at that data. And then what it's doing is it's transforming the data coming from the engineering side, SolidWorks side, into a proposed bill of material in the ERP. So here you have the top level item, which is that assembly, and you have the two parts underneath it, which is there's the shaft and there's the gear. So the shaft and the gear come together in an assembly operation, which you also see an assembly operation here. This is the assembly operation inside of Cloud Suite Industrial to make this assembly. So it's very intuitive here. You see this kind of hierarchical tree view that's showing you how the bill of material comes together. Back to the idea of this expression engine. One of the things I want to note is that the expression engine does things that are simple, like, hey, copy the description from the CAD model over to CSI's description field. It can do really smart things too. Also, like, say, you know what? It says, I know that description coming from SolidWorks is really long, and it's not going to fit into my field in CSI, so I need to break that up across multiple fields maybe. And it even knows to like break it up, but not necessarily in the middle of a word. It'll actually break it up in a space between two words. So that's kind of an example of where the AI engine is very smart at figuring out how to bring that data over. Another thing to note is that this assembly operation actually does not exist inside of the SolidWorks. The AI expression engine's figuring that out. It says, you know what? I know that's an assembly coming over from SolidWorks, so I need to do something with that. So I'm going to go ahead and add an assembly operation to this routing because I know that they're going to need to assemble this on the manufacturing side. So it's making that inference about data that's in the model to figure out what's required for CSI. We can configure how it figures that out using those same rules that I spoke about earlier. They can be configured for your installation. This is a full editor. I have access to anything I'd like to do inside of CSI right in this editor. So if I want to change like the description on this part, I can just literally go in here and change that and change that description. I can edit every single field, including any custom fields that you've added to your CSI install. So it's a very, very deep integration with CADTALK. We've been working with CSI for almost 15 years now, so all the features that you expect to be in here are here. So we can support notes and creating warehouses, all kinds of things that we can do out of the box with CADTALK. We actually have no customers who have custom installations of CADTALK or anything like that. They're always just configured for their use, but they're very full-featured and very deep integration. The same validation is also available in here as well. So if there was like a missing required field, like this product code, say it wasn't there, you see there's a little error here. It says, that product code's required. I got to have a product code to save this assembly. And the save button actually became disabled. If I wanted to change that, I can hit the drop down, and here's all the product codes directly from the ERP CSI. So go ahead and pick the product code that I want again, or I can search for it as well through the top. FG100 is the one I wanted. Finish goods. And hit that again. You'll notice that as soon as I tab off, it'll revalidate, and the icon will go away, and the save icon will become enabled. So once I have it the way I like it, all I've got to do is hit save, and it will actually create all 3 part numbers and that bill of material all at the same time. And it actually did it really, really quickly there. That's why everything turns green. So the red parts meant that it was new, the new parts and new bill of material. And then the green means that everything I'm seeing here is exactly the way it is in CSI. Let's take a look at that same item over in CSI. Okay, now we're over in CSI. So let's take a look at that same part. I'm actually going to do a search for DS06. Remove the filter here. And this will show me all 3 parts now over in the ERP. So here I've got the top level assembly. There's the shaft, and there's the gear. And you'll also notice that the part number, the descriptions obviously come over, as well as a picture of the part that is actually extracted directly from the solid model and brought over into CSI as part of the import. Now, if you don't want that, we can configure that not to come in, but this is a nice little add-on feature that you can see the parts directly inside of what they look like inside of CSI coming from the CAD models themselves. If we want to look at the bill of material view of that, we can do the same thing. So let's go ahead and open this up. ZS06-302 is my assembly. Say OK. And now you'll see here that I have there's my assembly, the assembly operation, and the 2 parts. Bill of materials also showed up inside of CSI as well. Okay. So that's pretty interesting, but I mean, it's just a 2-part assembly, but just to kind of get the idea across of how easy it is to literally start with nothing in CSI, and all you have is a Solidworks model, and then bringing the entire thing in all at one time, ready for production. So we can go from nothing to something very, very quickly and get to the shop floor in record time. So I'm going to go ahead and do the bigger assembly to kind of show more the power of the product. Okay, so I'm going to load Solidworks file. I'm going to grab the larger assembly. I'm going to pick the default configuration. I'm going to say OK. And this will take a little bit longer. You'll see down at the bottom left here, I've got the status going through, and it'll flash through all the parts as it's going through. I think there's like 40 or 50 parts. There's no limit to the number of parts that CADTALK can load or bring in at one time. We actually even have customers who do thousands of parts at a time. So we have a customer who actually makes semi-trailers, and they'll bring in the entire semi-trailer as one big load. Okay, so it'll take some time, but I mean, think about that compared to doing it manually. What would take you a week or 2 to do manually, they can do in several hours with CADTALK. You also can work with it as subassembly at a time. So sometimes, like, if people want to just do incremental releases and they want to release designs as they go and then ultimately do the upper level design at the end, you can do that as well, because CADTALK's always reconciling against what's currently in the ERP. So let me go ahead and expand this. You'll see this fully indented bill of material. So here you can see I've got multiple levels. I've got a drive assembly here that also has another level for a gear train, which looks like this. And then you'll notice even further down, there's these yellow parts, and there's my gear shaft, my prop shaft assembly from my first time I brought it in. And it even recognizes that I changed that description from before. So one thing to note is that if I'd like, I didn't save that description back into the model, but it still remembers that the description was that way when I changed it last time. Now, if I wanted to, I could have written that back into the model, and then it would have came in the same way. Configuration of which one drives the data is really up to you. So if you want the data always be updated from the model into CSI, that's just literally changing the expression for the data coming in. If you want CSI to retain the changes that you made over there before, and then just kind of like in this case, the description, like I did here, it retains the description if it's not a new item. Now, these rules can be changed at a field level. You could say, in the case of description, always come from SolidWorks. But in the case of product code, obviously, always come from CSI. We have super flexible rules for how this data gets brought over and how it's merged. So same thing. If I want to make any changes to this bill of material, I have the ability to make any change that I want, change any field. I have support for every single field. You'll also notice that there's fields that are yellow. What yellow fields means that it's actually tracking the changes from either the default, if it's a new part, or from the existing part inside of CSI. So if there's something in CSI that's been changed, if it comes out and you've changed it as part of the mapping, it's keeping track of all those changes. They're also keeping track of everything in the changes pane here too. So even if you don't have things shown in the interface here, we also can see all the changes that have happened right over here in the changes pane. So it's actually giving me the original version and also what it is currently. So the original value and the current value. Same as before. Once I'm done with everything, all I've got to do is hit save, and it will actually create every single item that it needs to create, as well as all the different levels of the bill of material all at the same time. So you think about this, if you had to do this by hand, this could take you several hours to enter all of the data in for each item, and then enter each level of the bill of material, and it's all its routing steps. We're actually going to do all of that in one foul swoop. And just that quickly, that entire assembly has been saved over in CSI. So let's take a look at that again over in CSI. Open CS06-100, which is my assembly. And now you can see that I've got multiple levels of a bill of material. All those parts have now been created, and all the different levels of the bill of material are now in here ready to go. So once again, the propeller shaft assembly that I brought in, which is updated, there's any changes, but it also created any new parts in that same assembly that were already there. All right, well, that concludes the demo. Thank you for your time.
All right. Well, hopefully that gave you a pretty good overview of some of the features within CADTALK. As you can see, we've made the product very easy to use. And as Scott had mentioned in the demonstration there, not only do we provide the software, but we provide the services to implement it. So if you were to sign up with us and move forward with CADTALK, you get the implementation. We will make sure that we set up the system to work with your data the way that you want it to work, and we will train you how to use it. And we have some customers that are power users, right? And they can get in there and write their own expressions. And certainly we want you to be able to do that because at the end of the day, it's your software and you don't want to have to come back and pay us to do that work later on. But we're always here. And that's always part of what we provide to you as a service. So real quick summary, we're going to improve drastically your engineering and manufacturing handoff again by about 80%. You're going to reduce all kinds of errors. You're going to be a lot more efficient. We can create the items. We can create the inventory records of your multi-warehouse. We'll do the vendor selection all within the ERP. It's rules-based. It's going to create all those assembly operations or different operations. It doesn't have to be assembly. It could be drilling, milling, plating, coating, who knows. And you're going to get an ROI on this product literally in about 3 months. Let's take a quick poll here. And I just want to launch the poll and see what you all think of the product demonstration today. If you guys want to move forward, we can get you pricing. If you want a personalized demonstration, maybe you've seen stuff like this before, you thought you did, and then you bought it or evaluated it, and you're sitting there thinking, there's no way that this is as good as it looks. We can do a personalized demonstration, or better yet, we'll offer you a free 30-day trial. Our competitors don't. If you want to try the software and actually see it work with your data in your environment, we will make that happen for you. So please go ahead and fill out that poll. Don't be shy. We already know who you are. We're not pushy salespeople, but we just want to get a feel. If you don't have an interest right now, we'll leave you alone for a little bit. But if you guys want pricing or you want to see it in a little more detail, we'll certainly go ahead and make sure we take care of you on that end. Okay. We're going to let the poll stay up here for just a little bit more. We only have a few of you that have voted so far. And then we'll wrap up with Q&A here in just a second and give you some contact information. Thank you. There's a few more votes coming in. getting closer there. And while we wait just a few more seconds for the rest of the votes to come in, we'll mention we do an awful lot with Infor. We were just out at the Sun Conference, probably got a chance to meet a few of you out there, or maybe some of your colleagues that attended that show. And you know, really excited to be able to offer this up. All right, we'll give it another 5 or 10 seconds. We'll go ahead and close the poll. See if anybody else is coming in here. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to close the poll. And we will wrap up here. Another quote from one of our customers: "We're getting things to the shop floor 70% faster, and everyone is happy with that." That's Ron Dahlman over at National Bulk Equipment. Again, personal demos, free 30-day trials with your data. Didn't mention this before, but we do have 2 options on purchasing. You can either subscribe to the software. It's a little bit lower upfront cost, but it's an annual subscription that does include your annual maintenance and support. So it'll cover all your updates to the product as well as unlimited support. And for those of you that just want to buy the software and own it, you can go ahead and do that. And then there's a smaller fee that would be recurring annually for your maintenance support contract. Myself, James Mallory, CMO, I did the presentation here for you today. But if you have any questions about pricing or evaluations or demonstrations, please reach out to my colleague, Rich Creech. I have Rich's contact information on here as well. And if you did fill out the poll and said that you were interested in taking that next step, we'll certainly make sure that Rich gets back to you.